Welcome to the Doubles Only Tennis Podcast, where you learn the best doubles strategies to improve your game and win more matches. I'm your host, Will Bocek. This podcast, my website, and my weekly newsletter all focus on the goal of better understanding the sport of doubles and helping players like you improve faster through actionable advice that you can use in your very next match. My goal is to provide the best doubles strategy resources in the world. And to do that, I study, analyze, and work with players at every level of the game, all the way up to the ATP and WTA tours. If you enjoy this podcast, I've created doubles strategy products that go even deeper if you want to take your doubles knowledge to the next level. At the end of this episode, I'll explain more about them, or if you want to learn more now, go to thetennistribe.com/products. Here's today's episode. You're about to hear my conversation from last week at Indian Wells with the number one doubles team on the ATP Tour. Harri Heliovaara and Henry Patten are ranked 4th and 3rd respectively in the individual doubles rankings, and then they are number 1 in the race to the year-end finals so far this year. They won Wimbledon last year in 2024. They won the Australian Open earlier this year in 2025. So they have 2 of the last 3 major doubles titles, and they're obviously playing at a super high level. So before I get to the conversation, I just got back from Indian Wells last night. I'm kind of catching up on all of these podcasts. It was a great week and a half there at Indian Wells. I had some really good conversations with some high-level executives, coaches, players, different people in the tennis profession, in the tennis industry, and really centered around the kind of doubles conversation that's been going on lately about how to make it more popular, what changes need to be happening, different things like that. And you're going to hear a lot of that in this conversation, as well as some of the other podcasts over the next week or two. But before you hear that, a couple of quick updates from the Tennis Tribe side. So we just went live with our new website. The design right now is very similar to the old website, but we migrated a lot of different things on the back end, which took a lot of time and was a big investment. And slowly we're going to be making adjustments on the front end. So we're going to move the membership away from the Teachable platform, and it's going to be integrated into the website. So there will be a little login button and a logout button at the top right. We're going to make it really easy to navigate, easy to find the content you're looking for. If you want to work on your return strategy and you're an ad court returner, then you'll be able to easily find the lessons on that. For example. So it's going to be a big upgrade. I'm hoping to have most of the front end changes done by the end of April and be totally migrated away from Teachable as far as the membership is concerned. For the member-only webinar this month, we're going to be doing it on March 25th. So that's a Tuesday. It's about a week and a half from now. It's going to be at 1 p.m. Central Time, 2 p.m. Eastern, and it's going to be on the ad court. So if you missed the February webinar, I talked about the deuce court. So it's a great one to watch if you return from the deuce court or if you struggle holding your serve from the deuce court. And then in March, in a couple of weeks, we're going to be talking about the ad court. So it's going to be really good for ad court returners. If you're a recreational member, you're going to get access to the February webinar through the end of March. And then on March 25th, we'll have the ad court webinar, and you'll have access to that through the end of April. Of course, club level members get access for the lifetime of your membership. So keep an eye out for that. I'll link in the show notes to the membership if you're not currently a member and want to check that out. I'm releasing new premium video lessons every single week, alongside one webinar every month. And then you also get exclusive discounts from Tennis Warehouse, ADV tennis bags, Rhea eyewear for sunglasses, lots of my favorite tennis products. You get some really good discounts inside the membership as well. So there's a lot of content there, as well as some strategy courses. So you can check that out in the show notes. So Let's dive into this episode. So Harri Heliovaara, number 4 in the world, Henry Patten, number 3 in the world. I sat down with them before they started the tournament at Indian Wells. So the tournament was shifted back to a Sunday start this year, which was the middle weekend. And I talked with them about practice, what their practice looked like for the few days leading up to the tournament. We get into some specifics that you can learn from as a club level player as well. We also talk about their first round matchups. They were playing Marcelo Melo and Alexander Zverev. They went on to win that match, and they talked about how they handle playing doubles specialists versus singles players, and in this case, a combination of the two, with Zverev being such a good singles player. We also talked about whether they like the Sunday start or not. And then we discussed their Australian Open run as well. They compared it to the Wimbledon run, and that kind of led us into a transition towards kind of the doubles conversation on a bigger scale as of late. So we talked about what it is going to take to make pro doubles more popular. We compare pro doubles on the men's side to the women's side. A lot of people say that the WTA doubles is in a better spot than the ATP, so Henry has a bit of a response to that. And then we talk about how we can potentially make the next Harri Heliovaara, the next Henry Patten, become tennis stars. So you're going to get a lot out of this. You're going to understand a lot more about these two individuals, as well as their partnership. We talk about team chemistry a lot in this conversation too. So I think this is going to be a fun one for you to get to know two of the top 5 doubles players in the world and the number 1 team in the world. So without further delay, enjoy this interview with Harri Heliovaara and Henry Patten. Hey everybody, welcome to the show. Today we have the number 1 doubles team in the world on, Harri Heliovaara and Henry Patten. Welcome, guys.
Thank you very much. Are we the number 1?
We are the number 1.
You're number 1 in the race.
In the race, okay, yeah, we'll take that.
I think that's the best way to judge it, probably.
Yeah, I agree, yeah.
So I was looking at the rankings earlier. It looks like, Harry, you're 4 and Henry, you're 3. Harry, how do you catch up to your doubles partner here?
Well, that's actually quite easy. After Miami, I will go ahead of him if we just play together the next couple of weeks. Because I mean, it's quite. After Miami, we will have the same points, but he has played 2 more tournaments than me last summer, so he will stay behind me for the next 3 months after Miami. But hopefully, by Wimbledon, then we are tied for number 1.
Okay, y'all are both doing pretty well. Career highs, I believe, for both of you right now.
Yeah.
So we're here in Indian Wells. You have a Sunday start, which is a little unusual this year. Henry, you said this was your first time here. What has the last few days been like? Talk about practice when you do have a start that's a couple days away from the time that you get here.
So I'm trying to think when I arrived here. I guess I arrived here sort of Wednesday afternoon, kind of settled in, and then, we've been practicing for 2 to 3 hours a day, I would say, most days. So nothing too crazy. First couple of days are always kind of getting used to the conditions. The courts are pretty slow here, and it's very, very dry. Mm-hmm. The balls I think they only use these balls at this event. So that's a unique factor to
what
try
ball
and get used to. It's the pen ball.
Okay.
I don't know which model of pen ball it is, but I think it's pretty much only this tournament in the year that uses it. So definitely kind of an adjustment phase, and now we're moving into some more points play, and sort of live drills. That's it. We've played golf the last couple of days. I don't know if that's going to be good or bad for our tennis preparation, but we've really enjoyed it. We're trying to have a good time here.
You talked about practice, or before we started recording, you talked about practice earlier today. And one of the things I've been noticing just walking around the practice courts is a lot of the doubles players will either just have a practice with their partner or maybe even just their coach working on specifics. And then a lot of times y'all are out there playing like practice sets or 2 up, 2 back or something like that. Talk about the difference between those two, how you kind of manage each one, and then how you decide, which one are you going to do on a specific day, or is it better to do one before the other?
Yeah, so I mean, the reason we would do sort of a session just by ourselves, which is what we did this morning, is you just are able to get more reps in, basically, with whatever you want to do. Obviously, you're also able to do whatever you want to do. You don't have to take the other pair into consideration when you're deciding what drills to do. So, this morning we focused quite heavily on serve return, played some kind of live points between ourselves. We wanted to work on that, which if there was another pair on the court, we might not have been able to do, And then, we'll play points this afternoon. It's tough to truly replicate points play in drills. So I think it's always important to play a set as well. We usually prefer doing the session by ourselves first. Also acts as kind of a warm-up and a sharpener before we then go into play points, which is more realistic in terms of what we do on a match day. So, that's how we like to do it. But I'm sure lots of people have different preferences.
What does the points against each other look like? I imagine you're playing like shadow doubles where it's like half court. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I mean, the main way we do that is a game that we call volleyball, which is pretty simple, really. You have one player serving, one player returning, and you're playing points, and the server decides where the returner is going to hit their return, and then you play out points sort of half court from that. There's a variation of the game, so we either play first and second serve, where only the server wins the point, and if you win the point, you keep serving. Obviously, if the returner wins the point, then they start serving, and you score it like that. And then we play one with just second serve, which is the other way around. So the returner wins the point, and if you're the server and you win the point, then you start returning. So we play those games a lot. Serve and return is well, the most important shots in doubles. So we spend a lot of our practice working on those things.
Yeah, it's definitely something I've noticed. Like when I'm at home watching like some club doubles matches or something, they'll spend like a minute or two on serves and returns before going into their practice set. And y'all are spending, I think just the other day when I was with Tennis Warehouse filming your practice, y'all spent like 15 minutes or so, maybe more.
Yeah, that sounds probably about right. Today we probably spent about, half an hour serving, I would say.
Out of a full hour practice.
Out of a full hour, working on serve and return. I think, you often see people warming up their serve and return, and then that's about it. They just play. But, it's really important to kind of dedicate some time to actually work on those individual skills for us.
So talk about your matchup here in the first round. You've got Marcelo Melo and then Alexander Zverev. They've played together a fair amount. Zverev's obviously focused more on singles and more of kind of a single style player. How do you handle a team like that when you're facing one singles player and then one guy who's more of kind of a doubles player?
It's an interesting team. Obviously, it's not a new team, like you said. They played surprisingly quite a bit together. They made the final of Monte Carlo last year, and I've actually played against them 2 years ago with a different partner. Zverev brings great serve on the court, excellent returning, whereas Melo is the guy who's taking over the net. So it's a good combination for them, but sometimes we try to find their weaknesses. Obviously, Zverev maybe not at home at the net, so we can try to attack him a little bit, make him feel uncomfortable at the net. Whereas if we can keep Melo at the baseline, it's not easy because he wants to come in, but his ground strokes are weaker of the two. But at the same time, we have played so much doubles together, and we know the way we play, and that's very offensive. And we got to keep that offensive mindset and just like mostly focus on ourselves. But there are, in every match, there are some shots where you can choose where to go, and this one it's easy to choose. If they're both at the net, we go at Zverev. And there's like small changes to how we approach the game, but still mostly focus on what we do. We serve well, they are going to struggle with their returns. We return well, they're going to struggle with their shots after the serve. So mostly focus on ourselves.
Yeah, I'd imagine in a matchup like that, there's like specific points that are a little bit more difficult to win. So like on Zverev serve, it's more difficult to win the point, or maybe a second serve to Zverev when Melo's already at the net. You probably don't want to get into a ad court rally with Zverev on his backhand side. So do you kind of break it down like that and have kind of a game plan for each type of point, or do you feel like that comes second nature to you at this point because you've been playing doubles for so long and you kind of get it?
Yeah, I still believe we can break anyone, even Zverev serving. And sometimes, funnily enough, you feel like you're going to break the weaker server, but at the end you break Zverev twice in the match. That could easily happen. But like you say, we probably don't want to get into exchange in long rallies with Zverev at the back. So then we try to break the rhythm, go with the lob or play a short one, attack Melo a little bit, just to not give much rhythm to Zverev. But again, the rallies in doubles nowadays, they're mostly very short. So if we do our own thing, we keep the ball short, and then hopefully they will struggle.
Do you like the Sunday start here?
Personally, yes. The whole doubles event is 3 days shorter than it was last year, and that it's been in the past. And I think it's just, for both of us, it gave 3 more days at home, which are very rare nowadays. And I can spend time with my kids 3 more days. I would choose that every time.
Yeah. Talk a little bit about the Australian Open victory. How did it compare to the win at Wimbledon last year?
It was a very different feeling. I mean, obviously Wimbledon, well, we were unseeded in the event going in, and so that was very different. And also the final we played there, the crowd was pretty full, and obviously a home crowd for me as well. And we had lots of friends and family there watching. So you compare that to the Australian Open when we obviously went on very late. The stands were pretty empty at that time of night, and we had a few loyal supporters, but nothing in comparison to what Wimbledon was like. So I think very, very close matches, but very different matches. I think the first one, somehow we found a way to get through, and we learned a lot about ourselves and our pair and how we play best in tight situations through that match. And I think that showed in Australia, even after losing the first set tiebreak. Was it 18-16 or something?
Yeah, it was
something like that. Whatever it was something crazy. But at that point we kind of believed that we had the resilience, and I think that came from the Wimbledon win. I mean, in terms of the emotions, I would say also very different. I think Australia, we were both absolutely exhausted, and it was kind of a relief that it was over. And Wimbledon was literally unbelievable. And we were completely ecstatic and ready to celebrate with friends and family. So, very different. I mean, I cherish them both greatly. They were both, incredible experiences, and still have to pinch myself looking back on those matches and how privileged we are to have played those kinds of matches, and also come out on top. Different.
Yeah. You mentioned you learned from the Wimbledon final. What did you learn from, like, I guess, a match perspective going into a Grand Slam final, and then also the full 2 weeks? Because players I've talked to in the past talk about just how mentally exhausting it can be to stay focused for that extended of a period of time. So what have you learned, I guess, over the last year or so, going into a big match, and then how you handle a tournament overall?
Yeah, well, I think from the Wimbledon match, we basically lost in every statistic apart from the one that matters, which is the who won and who lost. And I think what that showed to us is, we don't have to play our best to win. We don't have to dominate matches to win. And we can always be extremely difficult to beat. And I think that's been kind of a mantra for us, whether we're playing well, badly. I think last week in Dubai is a good example of that. We kind of were struggling through the matches and ended up making the final. It was a great week. But I don't think we ever kind of found our top gear, but still managed to get through those matches and win, which is, when you're playing as many matches as us on the tour and the margins are so fine, that's a really useful skill to have. What have we learnt about playing long tournaments? I don't know. You just have to look after yourself. I think Australia was a good example. I think, was it the day before the final? We actually chose not to practice on that day, which I think if we were less experienced, we would kind of feel that we had to practice. But we both had a few niggles and we had the maturity to say, no, look, we've hit enough tennis balls over this fortnight. Let's take a day off and make sure we're fresh for the final. And I think that, looking back on it and seeing how long that final was, I think that paid dividends. So, just looking after yourself a bit, not being too hard on yourself, those kinds of things, staying positive throughout, make the difference.
What about for you, Harry? Other than no sweets until you win the finals?
Yeah, no sweets until we win the final.
Yeah.
It's a long tournament, the Grand Slam tournament, especially when you play until the end. And that's, I think, what we also learned was after winning a Grand Slam, you need to take several weeks off. The mind or the body, they're not ready to play tournaments a week after that. This time we took 3 weeks off, and I think it was the right decision to do. We were planning to play Dallas only a week after Australian Open. We decided last minute not travel there, and it was the best decision we did this year so far. And yeah, I mean, Australian Open, winning that second Grand Slam, it shows that the first one wasn't an accident. We really deserved to win those, and super happy, also lucky to be able to play those finals and win them. We kind of feel a little sorry for the Italians. It was their third final and they lost all 3. We played 2 and we won both. So small margins, but they've gone our way so far.
So I chatted with your coach, Henry Calvin, back in Australia. What is something you've learned from him as a coach that you would maybe, if you could choose one lesson to send out to everyone else?
Well, I've got one thing from Calvin. I think he finds that balance of kind of criticizing yourself and also giving yourself credit very well. It's difficult to explain. I mean, we've worked together for maybe 2 years, all the way up from futures, and he has a great understanding of what I need and how I operate. And I think, for other coaches, that's probably the most important thing, is just fully understanding what the player wants and needs from a feedback point of view. And it took quite a while to master that. At the start, he was maybe giving me a little bit too much feedback. And I think that can be distracting from what you're trying to do. But at the same time, I get quite frustrated if, I'm struggling in a practice, and he's not really giving me any information, and it changes from player to player a lot. I think that just cultivates a good relationship on court. It makes you feel like you're working together towards the same goal. So, I'd say open communication and trying to understand how much or how little feedback a player wants is, really important.
What did that look like early on? You said he gave you too much feedback early on. So would this be in a practice and he would just be in your ear the whole time?
Yeah,
and you'd
exactly.
be you're flooded. Yeah. It's too much information.
And I mean, to his credit, I would probably go on the side of probably less feedback. So I think, that was an adjustment period, but
sure.
Yeah, for me, we'd be, so I don't know, say random example, working on, forehands cross court, and I would miss 1 or 2 balls, and he would kind of, interrupt and stop and kind of break it down. Whereas I think now he says he has a rule. I think if he sees me do the same thing 4 times and and I'm not figuring it out for myself, then he comes in and gives me feedback. So, I think obviously there's many, many more things that he does very well, and he's been a huge part of our success as a pair. The whole coaching team around us, Boris has his own Harry has his own coach, Boris, who works with us. And then we have Louis Caillet, who I know you've spoken to as well, kind of overseeing. So, I just think the relationship is the most important thing, and the relationships that we have with our whole coaching team kind of is what we hold on to the most and what we value the most.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it seems like the communication, and then for Calvin to have that kind of self-awareness to understand I'm over delivering information. I'm giving too much feedback, and to be able to dial it back, I think is really important. yeah, a lot of coaches you see at the lower levels of tennis will just talk players' ear off, and not let them hit the balls and figure it out on their own. So yeah, that makes a lot of sense, finding that balance. So I want to talk about kind of the doubles news recently. Obviously, there's been a lot of chatter between Opelka and Roddick and Wertheim, and I've had my own opinions on this podcast and various other platforms. Let me start with this. A lot of people think that women's doubles is in a better spot than the men's side, than the ATP side. Do you agree with that? And if so, why do you think that's the case?
Good question. I mean, certainly they have more singles players playing doubles. I think you'll see that. So I guess, if that's your goal, is to have more of the singles players playing, then yes, they're definitely doing a better job with that than the ATP is. At the same time, I don't know if I see, the combined events was really the only time that we see them. I don't know if I see that much difference in terms of sort of the crowd or the draw of the two events. I don't think there's a huge difference there. I would say. But yeah, I don't know. Difficult to tell. I mean, I know I have friends who obviously play WTA doubles, and I know that the prize money in the ATP for the men's doubles is much better, which I think is an important factor to take into consideration when you're talking about the product as a whole.
Sure.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's difficult to say. I think they're both I think they'd both like to be contributing more to the tours. I think.
Harry? Yeah, I think WTA doubles, women's doubles in general, is maybe more relatable for the club level player. They see longer rallies. They see, different tactics, even two back when they're serving. Whereas the men's doubles is, most of the teams play quite in a similar fashion. They want to finish the points very, very quickly, and that maybe gives a little advantage to the women's doubles as a product. You get crazy rallies more often than the men's doubles, but at the same time, the true doubles fans, they also appreciate what the men's doubles is and how small things we focus on, how little the margins are and what you can do what you have to do to win a doubles match. I think both men's and women's doubles very interesting, and we also have the mixed doubles, which nowadays I've had a lot of discussion lately.
Yeah. So let's transition to that. Thoughts on the U.S. Open changes, mixed doubles, and then also what would you like to see in terms of mixed doubles going forward? Let's say if you had the power to make the changes yourself. Harry, I know you've won the U.S. Open mixed doubles title, so we'll start with you.
Thank you for mentioning. Yeah, that was one of the highlights of my career. Honestly, I mean, obviously, win a Grand Slam, it's something special. I think mixed doubles has great entertainment value. It's also one of the, tennis is one of the only sports where you can put men and women on the same court and you can play a competitive match, and it's amazing. It's great for tennis. And I believe when we can have more mixed doubles in big stadiums on TV, that's all just very, very positive for tennis. Personally, for myself, what they did at the US Open is not good, but I still see that I can understand the point of view from the tournament side, where they want to increase the exposure of mixed doubles. They want to make it entertaining. They can get it in primetime TV. That's great for mixed doubles. Hopefully, in the future, we could have some double specialists, some doubles, players who are exciting enough or famous enough to be part of that mixed doubles. But I think maybe next year that we could try that. But let's see. It's an interesting trial this year. I don't want to judge it before I see what it is.
How do we? And last question. I know you all have to get ready for your next practice. So you mentioned hopefully in the future in mixed doubles, we can have some of the doubles players who are, I guess, famous enough or popular enough to where, ESPN is willing to put them on TV, right? one of my questions that I wrote down is very related to that. How can the next Harri Heliovaara, the next Henry Patten, be as popular as, say, Grigor Dimitrov or Andrei Rublev or something like that? Maybe it's not possible. I hate to think this way, honestly, personally, but a lot of people say like it's not, doubles will never be as popular as singles. I don't even like to think that way, but like,
well, I mean, certainly it's a long way off, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you compare, the singles stars and the double stars, there's no comparison at the moment. I think
Mm-hmm.
what we'd really like to do is narrow the gap as much as we can. And I think, as I mentioned earlier, I think, there's been a lot of commentary about, doubles players kind of taking more money than they deserve and all the rest of it. But I just want to contribute as much as I can to the ATP tour. I want to be part of the ATP tour and I want to prove my worth and my value in any way that I can. And so that's kind of the mission from my standpoint. I think for me, and this is just from my experience, people that I know and people from the UK really care about doubles. I know it's the same for Harry. Even at practice today, he had a few Finns come up to him. He's been boasting recently about he's being recognised in supermarkets and he's on the telly in Finland all the time. And
I think that's from his blog, though.
Yeah, from his blog.
It's not the tennis results,
which is great. Well, whatever it is, you got to give it to him. And I think that proves that it's possible for doubles players and fans to have a connection if fans are invested in doubles players and they have or feel that they have some kind of relationship with doubles players. So for me, the question is, how do we kind of broaden that relationship? How do we broaden those interactions to a wider group of fans? And that is a difficult question. And lots of people have different theories on it. I think, we've been throwing ideas around lately, but I think Harry's blog is a great example. And he's kind of taken it upon himself to try and broaden that connection and interact with people. And, he has people commenting on his blogs and having conversations and that's fantastic. So I think, you have to kind of look in the mirror for a second. I need to do a better job on social media, maybe of kind of showing people what I'm doing on a day-to-day basis. Could I do a better job of that? 100%. I would love to see the ATP and tournaments kind of get more involved in that. Us doubles players don't have as many sponsorship commitments. We don't have as many kind of media duties. So for me, that's kind of a low-hanging fruit. If you need, I don't know, a tour of the event or a little behind the scenes action, I don't see why you couldn't choose a doubles player to kind of do that and produce some entertaining content, whether the fans know the doubles player or not initially. So yeah, I mean, I hope it improves, and it always comes back to, I do think that there needs to be a bit more promotion and marketing from all sides, including the doubles guys. I think we can all do a better job of that. And hopefully the ATP figures out a way to kind of invest in a way that appeases all stakeholders. I think that's the main issue. So yeah, we'll see. Harry, what do you think?
No, you said a lot of great things, but
Thank you.
But I believe the ATP, of course, is a worldwide tour, but we have so many small markets where actually the doubles players are bigger stars than the singles guys because they are local, and that's something that I don't know, maybe on the tour is not really used much. We have Marcel Arevalo is El Salvador is a big hero in the country. India, huge doubles focus over there. How many great doubles players they have? Maybe doubles is more
big market
popular than singles, and huge market. So there is some value in those kinds. And like you said, Finland, in my case, is now they're super interested in doubles all of a sudden. Success brings that kind of an interest, and we just make us interesting. That's what the fans like, and of course, with success, it's even easier to be interesting.
How do you think about the balance? Because you talked about, like Henry said, you can be a little better on social media, but you're also here playing a professional tennis event, and you have to practice twice a day, and you have to eat right and exercise and take care of your body and like not stare at your phone all day. How do you balance that? And what message would you have, say, for other players who might be listening to this, who are saying like, I don't have time to do the social media stuff. I'm trying to win tennis matches.
Yeah, well, I mean, of course, that is true. But I go back to what I said earlier. You know, I would be really surprised if doubles players were doing as much in a day when it comes to kind of media, sponsorship, press conferences, interviews, those kinds of things as the singles guys are doing. So I think we as a group need to kind of look at ourselves. And I think if we come together as a group, then good things can happen. But truly, I mean, you know, you look at obviously what's happened with the mixed doubles. I think we probably need to kind of get a move on if we want to, you know, continue having this as our career and really prove our worth to the ATP. And yeah, hopefully they can get behind us a little bit as well. But it's going to require an effort, an active effort for sure.
Awesome, guys. Well, thanks a ton for joining me. Hopefully we can do it again at some point down the road, and good luck this week.
Thank you very much. Pleasure.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of the Doubles Only podcast. If you're interested in diving deeper into any topics I discuss, I've created doubles strategy products that allow me to bring you more podcasts and other doubles content without relying on paid ads. I have ebooks and courses that help you make better strategic decisions during matches and become the smartest player on the court. Go to thetennistribe.com/products to learn more. You can also join my free weekly doubles strategy newsletter that includes video lessons and more on our homepage. If you want to connect, you can find me on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, or email me directly, will@thetennistribe.com.